This is Laptop Radio. Today's topic is Empire of the Ants. I'm at GDC Live. You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Renaud Charpentier, and I am the game director on Empire of the Ants.
I just played Empire of the Ants. It was pretty fun. Kind of reminded me of Ant-Man. And it's based on a few books, right? What are the names of the books?
Yeah, the names of books are exactly the same, Empire of the Ants, and that's a trilogy written by a French author called Bernard Werber, which are very famous in Europe. And we kept the key idea of that trilogy, which was to actually see this micro world as a macro world. See that as an empire with its queen, its warfare, its technological advancement, which is funny because they all exist just next to us. By default, you don't see it.
What inspired the team to make this game?
Initially, the idea was, okay, how do you treat that universe? And that's actually a pretty harsh universe. You could have maybe done an economic simulation, could have worked also for managing an ant hill, but that would have lacked what is an integral part of that world, which is the brutal warfare you have between all of these species, especially ants, between the ants versus the termites, ants versus other types of ants. And one of the key subjects of the book, which was quite modern at the time, was that the local ants, so the red ants, are fighting the pygmy ants that are actually invaders that have been imported in France in the 80s by boats coming back precious wood from South America. And that triggered an actual war that happened and still happening in France, where the natives are forced to fight those new species that come from somewhere else. And those fights are brutal.
I love the graphics. It's very realistic. How do you make the images and graphics for the game?
We rely a lot on a technique that is called photogrammetry, which actually means that we 3D scan some real life objects and render them as they are. We are helped a lot in that endeavor by the engine we're using, because that's Unreal 5. It's the latest version, actually, Unreal 5.3, soon 5.4. And they have a pipeline that helped us a lot to achieve that result relatively quickly. We can do that for all of the non-moving assets. Of course, all of the insects we have to model by ourselves, because you can't really scan an ant or a snail or those guys more, it doesn't really work. So those are modeled, I would say, in a traditional manner, but still taking the actual insect, the photo shoot, as references. So it's as realistic as we managed to make it graphically.
I noticed that there's different colors on the ants. So
Yes.
what are the symbolism of the colors? I mean, I was red, and then some of the armies and gunners were like
Green.
The one that were green,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, again, we copy the reality of these insects, that many of them use mercenaries. Some ants actually, you could say, contract or actually feed other species of ants to fight for themselves if they have different capacity. So our heroes are specific species of ants that are native to France, and they have fighters and they have what we call gunners that are actually spitting formic acid on their enemy. But these guys don't have heavy fighter with big pincer, etc. So what they will do in real life is to actually find some, feed them like mercenaries, and use them in battle to have shock troops. And so the colorization we use reflects that. It's that different, basically, races of ants have different capacity, and in the game it translates in different types of units.
How about the water? I didn't know that ants were afraid of water until now.
Yeah, they don't cross water at all, never. Some,
I literally just died
yeah,
playing
so
because
in our game, like in reality, water is lava, basically. So the floor is lava, you shouldn't cross that. The ants avoid it at all costs. And some species, but not European species, I don't remember the name exactly, but I think they're legendary species in South America, they actually build raft to be able to cross water. In the books, the queen that you serve has a huge subject to manage to cross a gigantic river, which actually for us humans is just a little whistle.
Yeah.
And they try for generation to go above it, crab, and nothing works. And in the end, they ally with other ants to dig a tunnel below the river to manage to cross it. in real life, water is really one of their arch enemies, which is quite convenient for us because it's also a way for us to have impassable parts in the maps to be able to do level design. So that's a great fit.
That's awesome. You can always really think about how to cross water. Who is the enemy here? Why are we building an empire of ants?
That's quite, the entire empire you serve is called the Federation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually a federation of different queens that are all usually the daughters of the original queen that then fly away. Those ants are capable of flying to reproduce. And that federation always tries to extend its territory. But like in real life or human life, the territory is not free. So they are constantly fighting against other insects that control this territory. Mm-hmm. Many times it's over basically empires of other ants of some type and other type, but sometimes it can be insects that are completely different. Then they might be opposed by spiders, or they might actually run into termites. Mm-hmm. And, which is part of the subject of the book and the game that I won't spoil, this happens in a forest that is exactly at the south of Paris, a forest that exists, and we went there to scan it.
Oh wow!
And humans exist there. So the way humans are treated, I don't want to spoil it, but one of the arch enemies of the ants might happen to have something to do with humans in the end, even if they don't completely understand who we are and what we are. And that's an important part of the story.
Awesome. I'm just thinking about the role of humans in the game. In other stories about ants or toys, humans are usually the enemy, and I'm just wondering whether we will be the enemy or not.
Interestingly, I can say that at the beginning of the game, which is the same as the beginning of the book, your hero is not aware that the humans exist at all. Mm-hmm. As you can see on the screen right now, there is a horseshoe that has been left there. But for the ants, it's just a specific type of rock that is harder than the other, and they don't really understand, have nothing to do with it. Mm-hmm. As long as humans don't interact with them, they just ignore them. Part of the story, which I don't want to spoil here, is that this interaction is going to become higher and higher through the game and through the story of the book. Mm-hmm. And that drives the motivations of some of the characters and the queen.
Can you talk about just the collaboration with the team in making the game?
The team, we are relatively small developers, so we work in-house. We know all of us pretty well, and we actually work in a very tight-knit environment where ideas are passed around and something is done. You can see it quickly on the screen of someone else, and then we iterate, decide we want this or that. It's really a team effort. We are not working in remote separately. We wanted to keep everyone together. We work remotely during COVID, like everyone, and it's mostly convinced us to keep the key creative people working on the game together to be able to exchange ideas, etc.
Okay, awesome. And then when is it going to launch? And where can people play?
So it's going to launch in November. Okay. And it's going to be available on every platform, PlayStation 5, Xbox, PC, through Steam, Epic, GOG, I think also. All available platforms.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Bye.